Hello, and welcome to season 3 of The Desk of a Navy Wife, where you may or may not hear my kiddos in the background. My name is Raina Worthy, and on this podcast, we like to talk about challenges, triumphs, and experiences with being a military spouse. So kick back, relax, make a cup of coffee, or get that evening dinner ready, and watch or listen to me in the background.
Right, everyone. I'm so excited to have you all today. And joining me is Dr. Mamie Pack. She is a military spouse as well as a sorority sister of mine. So I'm super
Yes,
excited
yes.
to be able to highlight her, all that she does, as well as her sharing her journey. Mamie, go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers and
Yeah.
listeners.
Yeah, well, thank you first. Thank you for inviting me to your platform and all of the individuals that are connected to you and your journey and all the hard work that you're doing in the spaces and supporting our military spouses and military connected community. So thank you. Yes. So I'm Dr. Mamie Pack, and I am military spouse. Well, now veteran spouse, because we're on the retirement side, which is kind of nice. Mama of 4 fellas, a educator, entrepreneur. I'm also a dreamer, a visionary, a hope dealer. I am just really been blessed and privileged to be able to work with different people, walk with people from different walks of life, whether that's me being in the educator space, whether that's being plugged into my community, whether that's me working in an entrepreneur space, but really learning the importance of how things change when we learn how to do life with other people. And then how do we teach people to build the skills that they need to be able to prioritize their mental health or implement self-care or go back to school, or how to run a household when this is your first deployment and you got a crying baby and you have no friends and no family and those of us who have been on this military journey, you know what that's like to do a deployment where everything likes to break, right? And if it can go wrong, it will go wrong, all of
Yes.
those pieces. And so I've been an educator for over 25 years, and I have been an entrepreneur now, 7.5 years for our Wellness Inspire stationery. And I use both my professional expertise and my personal experience to be able to create products that are practical, that help you tell your story, and help you prioritize your well-being one page at a time for the season that you're in. So that's just a small little snippet about.
I love it. And I know your background is in
Mhm.
training and development, which is
Yeah.
something that has been a huge goal of mine. So it's
Mhm.
amazing to see how you've taken that experience and been able to really hone in
Mhm.
on that and specializing on things that you offer for military spouses. And with this season 3 being dedicated more around mental health, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you can share a little bit about that journey as a military spouse, how those transition periods may have impacted you, whether it was a PCS move or a
Yeah.
deployment, and how it impacted your mental health.
Yeah, I grew up in a military home, so my mom served in the army, and so I was already familiar with the idea of resilience. We
Okay.
we moved every 3 years. You knew how to start over, make new friends, so. There was a skill set that I already developed in my childhood of, oh, this is how you do a thing. So changing, moving, all that doesn't impact me. This what I thought the same way. So I'm like, I'm resilient. This is not new. All these
Hmm.
kind of. I originally had my bachelor's in English, so I earned that. And then once we got married, I earned my master's degree after having our second son. And then eventually I did go back to school to earn my doctorate. And during that time, we added 2 more children to our family. So we
Mm.
were growing every single time, and each had its own unique challenges, ways in which I was stretching and really was also learning, how do I love the version of me in this season? And so there was some grieving that I went through that at the time. I didn't know that was grief. I was just
Mhm.
like, I was just sad.
Right.
It's attributed to being sad.
Right.
Uh, Especially when I wasn't working for the first time in my adult career. We decided I was going to stay at home, and that was around our third son. We had to have an emergency C-section for
Mhm.
him. Recovery looked a lot different. My body was just different. And so having to go through a deployment not too long after having a C-section, being in a new city, no friends, not working for the first time in my adult life,
Mhm.
having children, it was hard. It was like, there's no other word. It was hard, even though there was still some good. Like it, and that was the mindset shift that I had to have for my own mental health that no one could do for me. It was that they're good in my heart. And so during that time, I really leaned into my faith, really just like, okay, I was like, Lord, just you said you got the next step. I need you to just tell me what's my next step because
Right.
my 3-year plan, my 6-month plan, I'm a planner. I know how to do those things. That wasn't working in that season of life. And I was struggling because it wasn't working in that season of life.
Right.
And so I went from just really trying to control everything to surrendering, like, okay, Lord, you guide me in raising the children that you gave me, and that I am equipped to be the mother to the children that you gave me. I'm equipped to walk this season that I'm assigned to. And so I started with gratitude. I was like, I'm going to get up and every day I'm going to find the good in my heart and also giving myself self compassion and grace to say, this can look different and that's okay.
Mhm.
So it really took time. I'm not going to say I sat on that bed and came out like Wonder
New
Woman.
person, right?
Yes, there was not, so, but it took a lot of time and intentionality and getting back up when I would stumble into old behaviors
Mhm.
to be able to get to the other side of me now having a healthier mindset, me being able to view myself in a different capacity and being able to see who was I outside of the things that were comfortable for me, that were familiar to me, because now I was in an unfamiliar space and I'm just like, oh, I'm kind of struggling with this. And so in there, I'm a writer at heart. I have been writing and making journals ever since I was a little girl.
Mhm.
Journals now for my business. That's not a new thing. I did that for my students,
Mhm.
journals for my children. I created their own, baby books and things. So writing, storytelling has always been a heart space for me. And so it became, okay, let me just start writing and reflecting and using the skills that I already had as a teacher. I'm like, oh, I think I need to use these with myself
Right.
and put those kind of into place there. And it's different because at that point my children were small, first deployment, not working. So there were a lot of major life shifts, kind of colliding at one time. And when you're used to being resilient, you'll minimize. At least I minimized that. Oh, wait, these are really major things in isolation. I was just like, oh, this is what we do. We're going to keep on doing the thing versus like, oh no, this is a lot.
Yeah.
And how do I let somebody know I need help? And it took time. It was really hard for me to ask for help. It was really, I felt like I was supposed to,
Yeah.
that I should be able to handle these things. I'm supposed to be able to handle these things. And when I wasn't, then now I'm being critical of myself because I wasn't doing that. And so it took time for me, one, to recognize that's okay. I have a spouse who loves me dearly, who shows up for me, who supports me, who is my safe space. I can say the ugly things out loud.
Right.
I was scared of those ugly things. I was scared of the ugly things for myself. But then, like, if I say this, what are people going to think?
Right.
Kind of stuff. And so I just finally said the things out loud that I was dealing with internally to my husband and stuff, and his love and just care and compassion really, once I said it and I knew, and I was like, okay, now I can kind of move forward.
Yeah.
So that was that season. Then, of course, as the kids get older, you do more deployments, you do more moves. I started learning what were some of the basic skills and ways that helped me to thrive. And how to identify when what I was doing no longer serves where I am. So you kind of transition through different spaces, like when the kids go through like the different schools. Now we only have one son still at home
Yeah.
and having children now in college, that transition is also a big deal because now you're transitioning in your role as a parent. And my husband retiring,
Yeah.
that transition of now we're no longer bound by, the military
The
decide
orders.
our timeline. Yes,
Yes.
and what does the your relationship and your how the house functions and things like that. And one of the things I joke about is the contacts. So I've always been contact number one for the kids
Mhm.
was because I've been the parent that's home. He's away deployment, all that.
Right.
So when my husband retired, my work and business really started taking off.
Mhm.
I'm doing more traveling, speaking, etc. So I actually, I'm now contact too.
Yeah.
And that transition was like, oh wait, I've been this role in this space all this time and not even realize how that was gonna feel to like, oh. And so just being able to recognize where am I in this season? What are my needs? What do I need help with? What is my capacity in this season? And being able to know who are my safe people that I'm able to be completely vulnerable, completely all of me, right?
Yeah.
Like the fullness of me, and know that they're going to love me. They're going to, walk alongside me, lift me up if need be, hold me accountable when I need to be held accountable.
Right.
All those pieces. So I think when you were talking mental health, is that first mental health is normal, just like any other preventative care.
Yeah.
You go to your dentist, you go to your doctor for your regular checkups, you go get your car checked up. It's important that we see it as just simple care
Hmm.
for our mind and body, and to learn potentially some skills, some strategies that maybe we weren't taught. And when you go, and especially if you choose to talk to a mental health professional, a therapist, a coach, they can be impartial. So
Right.
they can hear the things that maybe you're not, not saying because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or maybe you need to process something to identify what do you want to do next. So it's really my attitude, my mindset about mental health is that this is the same as me going to ensure that I'm getting, my mammograms done, that I'm making sure that I am going and keeping up with my license and
Yeah.
all of these things. I treat it as this is just this. And that impacts the way I view how I show up in this space. And I know we talked about asking for help. And asking for help is very complex. And we just say, oh, ask for help. But if
Ask for
you,
help. It's hard.
it
It's
is, it
hard. We're not,
is,
or maybe we were in an environment where we're like, it wasn't okay for us to ask for help, right? We had to figure it out. And some people go
correct.
through that. And so
Yes.
as you get older, you take it with you. Like, I got it. I can figure it
Mhm.
out. I'll do it myself. And that's just, you carry it on with everything.
Yes, especially if you've experienced disappointment, right?
Right.
Like you're sharing, if you did to ask for help requires bravery, courage, vulnerability. So to be brave and courageous and vulnerable, and then you say this, and then they're like, that's not a big deal. They're either dismissive, they don't do the thing, or they tell you you shouldn't need it, right?
Mhm.
So you deal with the disappointment, and then depending on who you are as an individual, because my response to that is cool. You ain't never got to worry about me
Right.
asking you, right? So that's not healthy either.
Right.
But that is, we have our own responses when we deal with that kind of disappointment in there. And then also managing your expectation when you ask for help, because asking for help, that person may want to show up for you, but they may not be able to show up to the capacity in which you need them,
Yeah.
or they may not be able to do it in the way that you want it. So if you need a specific ask, like, hey, I need somebody to bring dinner. Now, I get that you might like your kids to have home cooked things with vegetables and none of this, but if they bring over some fast food and you didn't have to cook and you're able to rest, either you're gonna be upset that they did fast food. They responded to the help that you asked for,
Mhm.
right? In the way that they could.
Yeah.
Are you more upset that they didn't do it the way you would do it? Or are you going to accept the fact that they did show up and they did meet the immediate kind of request?
Mhm.
So when we're asking for help is also managing the expectations of that, and also recognizing this person I'm asking for help from, are they able to show up?
Right.
What is the capacity? So even I've learned not to just generically say, oh, I just really could use some help.
Right.
Now I'm very specific about what it is I need. I need help in doing this thing. Is this something that you're able to do at this time?
Mhm.
That person is going to say, yeah, I could do that. Or like, I can't do that, but I can do this. Would that be helpful? I recognize that's helped me better be able to respond and engage, but that's
Mhm.
also helped the people that I know love me, that I know want to show up for me, how they can show up in a way that still honors what's going on in their life, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you touched on asking for help and the expectation side, because I
Mhm.
do feel like so many of us, whether we're perfectionists or we just know how we like it, or we're used to, I can get it done, I'll just do it myself, and taking that aside and saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
listen, they're here to help you to the capacity that they're able to," and just learning to be grateful and having
Mhm.
to really unpack all of that. Like, I think for many of us, military spouses, and maybe it's just a human thing,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like we have these expectations with everything. And I know there was a conversation I had before with my husband where he says, well, I learned not to have expectations. That way I don't get disappointed. And I'm like, I can see that, but that can also be, something we need to talk about. So it's interesting. I will ask you, what strategies or tools have helped you the most in maintaining your mental wellness through the ups and the downs, all of these transitions that you shared?
Yeah, so one go through is self-reflection. I am, of course, a journaler, but what I really believe journaling does is one, it requires you to slow down. You're pausing, you're making your body actually sit. You are, the just what it does for your brain when you are putting, writing, as we say, pen to paper, pencil to paper. So I do journal, and it helps me to identify what am I actually thinking, feeling? And my journals are, when I'm doing journal writing, I don't focus on, am I using correct grammar? Is this a complete sentence? I'm not critiquing my handwriting on like, oh, this doesn't look pretty. And I'm also not being critical of myself of what I put on the paper,
Hmm.
right? So if that is what I'm feeling, that is what I'm feeling. So that part helps me with processing and then even identifying what is a me issue. And then if there's other parties involved, then I'm like, okay, is what about this might be a we issue?
Yeah.
What is this? Maybe this is just a you issue.
Right.
And so it helps being able to journal and then identify which parts are in there. If I recognize there is something relating to me, now I'm going to start doing some deeper dives to asking myself, all right, where did this thought come from? When did I first recognize I had this type of thinking? Can I go back and say, oh, had this idea when I was in college, or this is what was said to me in my childhood, by my mother, or whatever the case may be. Like I'm
Right.
going to now start to do a deeper dive. Like this thought isn't just a thought, it has a root somewhere.
Yeah. Like it's embedded.
And yes, so
Hmm.
now I'm really kind of spending time with what does this mean to me? Where did this come from? Do I even think this, or have I just been taught this?
Yeah.
And those kind of things. So the journaling is kind of like a starting point. Also identifying what do I believe to be true. So being able to use scripture, prayer to also reinforce like, okay, you know what, this is not, this is a faulty thought.
Mm.
This is not a true thought. This is unhealthy. And if I identify as something unhealthy, how could I reframe that? And then how do I practice? So I don't know if you can see like right behind me here
Yes.
is a bunch of sticky notes.
Sticky notes. Yeah.
Yep, I have a lot of sticky notes, and on those sticky notes are reframing thoughts.
Okay.
There are scriptures, there's quotes, things that I have used to help me when I find I'm starting to have certain mindsets, and to help me stay anchored.
Mm.
And so that those are some there. Also recognizing when do I find myself going through. If you're not a tracker, I
Yeah.
really encourage people to do tracking.
Track. Hmm.
So if you notice, hey, I'm feeling down today, okay, then you need to track that. And then you're going to reflect what took place today. Was
Yeah.
today I didn't get a phone call from my spouse and they're deployed, or I didn't get an email. So you're able to recognize something specifically happened that created this. The tracking also helped me to identify where was I feeling certain ways because of what was happening with like my menstrual cycle, or
Right.
because I was starting, perimenopause. Like what was there some other hormonal things going on that now I need to talk to a doctor about,
Right.
because this isn't just my circumstances. This is connected to, I recognize something within my body is off. So that helped me to identify, is this work for me, or is this, I need additional support to help me like connecting with the doctor,
Right.
whether or not I needed to have a, therapist or a coach, or recognizing that part in there. And then identifying where's your safe space, who are your safe space people, and being very clear about who they are, and always remembering that these are the people who love me.
Mm.
These are the people who really believe in me, and who, I know a lot of times we say, oh, people who see the worst in us, but these are the people who see the best in us. In spite of what those other pieces are, these are people who know the fullness of who we could become. And so really identifying who those people are, and then knowing I can go to these people
Mm.
to say the things that I'm hoping about, I'm dreaming about, I'm praying about, I'm concerned about.
Mm.
It's all of the different ones in there. I know as a military spouse, we often go into communities, we don't know anybody.
Right.
Most of like my close friends, they don't live, in the cities with me. So we have to be
Right.
intentional about maintaining our friendship and connection and things. And so also recognizing you have different types of people in your life. There is your inner circle, your safe people, but then there's also your community, which is different.
Mhm.
There are your colleagues, there are your acquaintances. So really making sure like, are you diversifying the role you give people in your life? And so that way that helps to manage your expectation.
Right.
And just because I see you as a friend, that doesn't mean that you see me as a friend because we got to manage that expectation too. Because we get her like, oh, I thought we were
I
closer.
thought we were cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and and it's like,
Yeah.
well, that person may be that for you to you, but that doesn't mean you're that person to the other person. And
Yeah.
so even being able to be aware of where are we relationally and that it's okay if I see you one way and you see
Yeah.
me.
Mhm.
Yeah. So being able to do that, that helped me because I did have my feelings hurt thinking that somebody was closer and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hey, we're not that. Oh,
Yeah.
I need to check me. Those are conversations and lessons that are hard lessons to learn that
Mhm.
nobody was telling me about. Like I had to stumble into learning that there's different types of those relationships and the
Right.
importance of knowing where people are in that and that I may be in a different circle for them in there. And so that way too, you can manage again, those expectations, right?
Expectations.
You can
Yeah.
manage those expectations when conflict arises, that type of thing. And then the other part for me specifically that I think relates to being a military spouse is
Mhm.
that when we're going through a deployment or anytime my husband was away from home for an extended period of time, there's a particular way I function that is different than when my husband is home. And so I'm going to because I am now the physical parent that is responsible for doing all of the things. I may decide like one year I didn't put my kids in any sports.
Mm.
No one was in anything. I was like, y'all can play outside with the kids in the neighborhood. You know,
Go
I
play
was like,
soccer in the yard.
yeah, that was really it's like I didn't have the physical, mental just capacity to
Capacity.
be doing
Mhm.
all the running. And I was like, the way for me to show up well in this season,
Mhm.
this is what I have to cut back.
Yeah.
This is what I'm not I am able to do. This is what I'm not able to do. And then to the people that were around, I was like, this is my capacity. Don't take it personally if I say no, but please still keep inviting me. I know
Yeah.
I said no the last 2 times. I'm just like, please inviting me really matters. I'm trying to da da da. People have never gone through the military life, know what it's really like to recognize you have not heard from your husband in 48 hours
Right.
longer and you're just like, "Oh, is something going on? What does this
Mhm.
mean?" The weight of that also knowing you are responsible for all the things in their absence. And then that's your kid's father. Well, in my case, that was my kid's father,
Yeah.
but that was my husband.
Mhm.
So as a wife, I was not, I'm missing my spouse and the way our relationship is and being able to talk and share and laugh and all that. And
Right.
so it's very you're managing what you're missing, but you're also managing what your kids are missing.
Yeah.
You're also managing all the people who love your spouse and they want their updates and how things are going and they're missing, them too and all of these kind of things. So it's don't apologize for knowing what your capacity is
Yeah.
and recognizing this is what I'm able to do so I can show up well. And of course, Stanley comes back home. Yeah, because now I have help doing dishes.
Right.
Now I have help being able to get the kids over here and over there. And now I have help to where I can study and know, like, oh, he's cooking dinner.
Yeah.
Like, that's a very different lifestyle than when you are now going 6 months, knowing that you have a spouse that does all of that. Now, 6 months, you're carrying all of it.
Yeah.
Every pickup, every drop off, every game, every teacher conference, every whatever, in addition to if you choose to go back to school, in addition to if you have a business, in addition to still making sure you as a person, like, how am I taking care of Mamie, the woman, so that I can have overflow
Mhm.
into all the other spaces of my life?
And see, with the adjustments, and I think that's something that I guess on the outside looking in, right? I think some people may automatically feel like, oh, they have a community. There's a community people there. There's the family support center and all of that. But you don't know the mindset of each military spouse. and their how comfortable they may be with doing that. I know personally for me when I was in Japan, so similar. My spouse was on deployment. I just had our baby. We just came back from a medevac. So now it was me, a newborn, and a toddler in
Mhm.
Japan, and I didn't know anybody. And I was like,
Yeah.
how do
Mhm.
I get, and then COVID happened. So it was like,
Yes.
how do I get this support still? Do I
Totally.
not go, crazy. That mental check-in, that taking a pause and being okay to know your limits. Like, hey, I
Mhm.
can't do this right now. I'm not at a space to be able to do
Yep.
this or go to this celebration or XYZ, but keep inviting me. And I
Yeah.
feel like if you have people that are understanding or are truly someone that is like
Mhm.
your friend or caring for you, they're going to be understanding with,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, we'll keep inviting you, but we completely understand if you can't make it because
Yes.
life is going crazy right now. And
Mhm.
so thank you for sharing that. Transitions, right? Because a lot of us go through these adjustments, transitions, the resilience that we're told, hey, you have so much
Mhm.
resilience, you have so much resilience. If a spouse is currently struggling with being overwhelmed during all these
Yeah.
changes, what's the first small step you'd recommend they take?
Great question. I do wanna just add one little thing from the previous thing and
Yeah,
we'll go
yeah,
back.
absolutely.
Yeah, so with the invite piece, I also recognize that in me saying no,
Uh huh.
some people, yes, they love you so much, they, like, recognize this is just a season for you, and they're gonna keep inviting. I also knew that in me saying, "Hey, you've asked me 3 times," I said no every time. We are not bonded in that deep way. I totally get if now I'm not being invited because, like, "Hey, I invited you 3 times. You told me
Said
no
no.
every single time.
Yeah.
So clearly you're da da da." And I recognize that's for me to own, and that's not for me, like, "I can't believe they're not inviting me anymore." Well, I did say no the last 3 times,
Yeah.
so, like, this is like, I have to own my part of that, and again, those expectations
Mm,
in there and being able to recognize, like, that doesn't mean they have or they want to. It doesn't even if they have it, they may not wanna keep asking me and asking me, asking, and
right.
what does that do for them and me constantly saying no? So just recognize, still do what's best for you, but also recognize not everyone is going to, if you don't have that kind of relationship, continue to like, yeah, invite you. Cause those other relationships, they've been around you in these spaces and seasons when you
Mm,
did say yes.
yeah.
So it's just like, okay, I know this is what she does. He's on deployment. This is our deployment behavior
Right.
around this a couple times, I get this. But someone who might be new to me, maybe that's the first time they're interacting with
Mm,
me through a deployment. They may not know that and feel like, oh, she's just being da da da. So
yeah.
I still own that what my part may be in them asking me and not asking me. So I just wanted to kind of still add
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
thank you, because it's
yeah,
so true.
yeah.
Some people will be receptive and others will be like, "Okay, fine. I'm not inviting you to
Yes.
nothing else."
Okay, like that's fair. That's fair. I got
Yeah,
you.
that's fair.
I did that. So if there is a military spouse going through transition, the very first step that I would recommend is to just be honest with yourself.
Okay.
Be honest. Like, stop trying. If you are someone who tries to explain away, you're trying to rationalize all the things because you're like, well, maybe I'm not supposed to be feeling this way. Maybe it's not like I am supposed to. People expect me to, like all of those kind of things. Just kind of really mute those conversations in your mind and first start with just, it is okay for me to be where I am, to feel what I'm feeling, and that I don't have to justify why I should feel a challenge, why this might be hard. Because I do think sometimes that's depending upon your lived experience,
Mm,
you'll justify whether or not something should be hard for yourself.
mhm.
You'll try and justify why you should ask for help or not ask for help. You'll go through those pieces. And so my first step in every transition now is it's okay. If I'm like, oh, this is hard, I don't want to do this, whatever that unfiltered kind of like the thing is, like, just go ahead. And one of my phrases, if I'm not sure what I'm feeling, but I recognize I am feeling something, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'm feeling some kind of way about this.
Yeah.
And that's just me acknowledging that there is something there in which I am not at peace. And I'm feeling a disruption and I need to figure out what that is, whether or not that's something I've just created in my mind or is this a real issue, right?
Right.
And so when you're going through transitions, it is going to feel hard because you are going from an old place to a new place.
Mhm.
You have one foot here And then your other leg is like way over
Right.
here.
You stretching with the toe.
Exactly. So you might just be barely in each one,
Right.
but that stretching creates uncomfortable space. Tells you, oh, I may have a knowledge gap. And that was one of the reframing statements that I used when I was
Uh-huh.
like, oh, yeah, I should know how to do this, or I don't know how to. I'm like, oh, you know what? This is a new space. I have a knowledge gap about this. There's information I need to learn, skills I need to build. So let me figure out what those things are. And
Mhm.
so the gap tells me it's okay for me to feel that stretching. It's okay for me to be uncomfortable because I'm maybe going from the top here, but I'm going into a new level, new season in which now I'm at the bottom and I got to figure out that. And so, what skills and strategies and practices that worked well, maybe when you had one kid, that is not going to work when you got two.
Right.
You know? And so those are like those kind of pieces of what do I need to adjust? Those are some of the pieces that is recognizing what about your life has changed. You have you noticed changes in your body? And I think too, like for those of us that do have children, your body it has changed. So
Mhm.
you are now learning how to love the body you have and
So hard.
look.
I mean, I'm sorry. I know you were in a
Yeah.
flow. It is
Mhm.
so hard to do that
Yeah.
because a lot of us are not honest with ourselves as far as like thinking that I'll be fine after the children. And then it's like the reality hits and your hormones change, your body changes, everything changes. And if you had C-sections, that's a whole nother
Another thing. Yep.
thing. And I had two, and each were
Mhm.
different,
Yeah.
recovery as well. So it's a lot to unpack, but go ahead.
Yes. Well, and I think with that comes now, what is the impact of that to your marriage?
Yeah.
Because if you're feeling a particular way about your body or
Yeah.
just yourself, then how does that show up in the relationship between you and your spouse? And then how does that impact now the dialogue you're having about yourself? Are your children hearing the dialogue that you're
That you're
saying about
having
your
about
body?
body.
Right. So if you're like, oh, nothing ever fits. Oh, I feel so
The whole
frumpy.
body image
The
thing.
whole thing,
Really,
right.
yeah.
Mhm. So they're hearing those pieces. So it's so multi-layered, right? And then for people who, even if you don't have any children, to be able to recognize that your life just may not look like what life used to look like. And so how do you embrace what life is compared to what life was and still honor that? You may need to even grieve some of that,
Mhm.
right? Like I recognize, and there's a space where I love the space of and. I can grieve what was and still be joyful, grateful for what is. And so those spaces of for myself, because I've gone back and forth, I've had different kind of just body image things that are deep rooted body
Yeah.
image things. So to be able to love who I am, I have to also then go back
Yeah.
and recognize how did I start hearing people talk about my body?
Mm.
How did the people around me, how did the other women in my life talk about their bodies? What were these things? All this kind for me to now start saying when I get ready to have those kind of thoughts, I've already planned for what I'm going to tell myself and I have the thought. So it's not if, it's a when. I'm
Right.
probably going to have this thought. So when I have this thought, have I already created a strategy for myself?
Mhm.
So I do. So when I go through this, I tell myself my body is not a trend. My body is capable and loved and has carried my children and has carried me through all these different. So I've created these statements for myself
Mhm.
ahead of time so that when I get here, I already know, nope, this is what I'm going to say about myself. This is what I'm going to say to my body so that it's not always what I'm saying out loud, but it's also what am I saying to myself in my mind
Mhm.
about myself, my relationships, my capabilities. So maybe school was hard for you growing up and you want to go back to school, but you're like, oh, I'm not a learner. I'm not smart enough. Well, you now have a thought. Write down your replacement statement, reframing statement so that when the thought comes back up, you're not smart enough, you're able to say, I am capable of learning. I have resources and strategies that will help me be able to learn new information. So you're reframing that you already have it and you need to put it where you're going to see it.
Right.
Put a sticky note in your office, put it on your bathroom mirror, put it on your screensaver on your phone.
Right.
But I always recommend create strategies in the good so that you have them when you're in the hard. And that works for all things, your relationship, being able to, if, as a being a military spouse, the different demands of what military life does on your marriage,
Yeah.
and being able to recognize there's things your spouse cannot talk to you about. And so how do you honor the fact that there are aspects about their career they cannot share with
Share.
you? Yep. Whereas you can tell them your whole day. Right? Like you give them all the details that we went here, we did this, I talked to
Yeah.
this person, I was thinking about this. You have given a whole 1 hour rundown of your day.
Right.
And you're now like, okay, babe, so how was your day? Good.
It was
That's
a
it.
day. Work was
It was a
work.
day. Yeah. It was regular, it's the same day as every other day. I'm like, but the young military spouse me was like, I really struggle with that
Yeah.
because I wanted to be included in like, oh, we're sharing about our day. And I had to learn that there were perimeters around what he legally
Good stuff.
is able to say or not say. So to not even go that route, you know what? These are the things we're going to talk about so that I'm able to honor what his professional responsibility is and then be able to focus on the things that we are able to talk about and not take that other stuff personal.
Mm.
Right? Because it's not about me. That is his responsibility to the U.S. Navy and the job that takes care of the family. Right?
Right.
Like,
He can't have the pillow talk, as they call
yes.
it.
So you recognize there are very clear boundaries
Mhm.
between what is able to be shared and not able to be shared. And I do think that that can be a new space when you
Mhm.
are a young spouse, especially if you did not grow up around military people. You
Right.
did not grow up around the military community. Everybody else's spouses are telling about their days. Like you might feel something, but recognize this is what his professional, the spouse's professional responsibility is. And they need to be able to ensure that they are abiding by legally what they have to abide by,
Right.
right? So then just identify what are the things you do want to talk about? What are the activities that you can enjoy as a family? How do you continue to build other aspects of your relationship with your spouse so that you still have that level of intimacy and connection and communicate. I'm going
Right.
and
Right.
different seasons require different levels of communication,
Oh, for sure.
on both
Different
sides. So, yeah, so that's
conversations.
kind
Yeah.
of yeah,
Man, so now, because I know with you talking about these conversations that we have to have and these different transition periods, you specifically are going through this new transition period,
yeah,
right? And you I understood earlier you have children in college, correct?
yes, yeah,
Okay. So, how are you navigating your children leaving home, going to
yeah,
college, starting to touch on that adulthood a little bit? And what impact does that have so far on your identity as a
yeah,
parent and also
yeah,
as a spouse with
yeah.
your significant other retiring?
Yeah, when we got into the retirement kinda space,
Yeah.
my mind was initially very focused on, like, understanding what this means for my husband, what does this mean for us as a family, kind of anticipating some spaces of, "Hey, we need to make sure we are increasing communication here. We need to make sure that we are now we wanna" 'cause we always have, we do weekly family meetings, that's a
Okay.
part of our family norm, and then we also do, like, planning kinda thing. So we have our emergency plans, we have, like, readiness plans, so those have been things that have already been a part of the way our family functions in there. And so being able to check in, with each kid, because every kid processes things differently.
Yeah.
But what there, so it was, you go through the retirement space, what it's so exciting. It's like, oh yes, 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 yes. And all those pieces. And then it's become now what does life look like because now for the first time ever, we are in total control of our scheduling.
Yeah.
We are in total control, like all these and the new rhythm and things like that. And so I think for us, because my husband and I, our communication is one of the strengths of our relationship,
Mhm.
that we were already like, okay, what does this mean for you, me? What do we need to do? What
Right.
support do we think we're going to need? And I'm very grateful for the circle of friends that my husband has. They are phenomenal individuals. So, he has good friends and to be able to show up and they were also able to talk to me about what transition looks like
Okay.
and being able to like, hey, these are these things, we're here to support you and him, that kind of part. So I think that also is a part in knowing that we were both surrounded by people
Hmm.
who loved us, friends for us, wanted to show up, all that kind of piece. And
Yeah.
I do think that makes a difference. And rather not you have people in there. And that transition part, where I was talking about, especially understanding with military community, where the impact of PTSD,
Yeah.
we also are, and we're talking, there could also be grief. Some people do struggle going from military, what you're wearing every day, what you're doing, all that. While that could seem exciting, for some people, that's not exciting
Right.
because now they went from not having to make certain decisions. Now I got to decide every day what I'm going to wear.
Yeah.
Seems like a small thing, but that is a big adjustment for some people. And also then what might be the financial impact to the household
Mhm.
when you're talking retirement, career. And so for us, it was really about what does this new season look like for me
Mhm.
in my career, in the business that definitely opened up for
Mhm.
me to be able to do more of those things, right?
Right.
Because now, again, I'm not contact one, right? I'm able to, family is now able to be here to do all the different things,
Yeah.
and it's not seasonal. And then with the kids, with our fellas transitioning to college, it really, I'm a crier. I own it.
Yeah.
I cry when I'm sad. I
Not
cry
gonna tough
when I'm
it
mad.
out, cry it out. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yep. I'm gonna cry it out, then I'm ready to go. And so it really was, truly understand when you talk bittersweet because you're recognizing this little boy
Yeah.
that you had and all this. And now this little boy has become this young and adolescent to now has become a young man.
Yeah.
And to be able to see glimpses of who they are, their character, like you're seeing these things and how it's such a privilege. Like for me, I get overwhelmed by the privilege of it all.
Yeah.
And just like I'm so grateful and that I get to be their mom and that I get to witness them going from this boyhood place to the manhood place. But I also, home changes now. I went from seeing them every day to now I'm seeing you maybe once a month. You're having to make a decision on if you're going to come home.
Right.
Forever changes with each one
Yeah.
who leaves. And so that is an adjustment for me.
Mhm.
That's an adjustment of like, oh, wait. So when we start talking family trips, well, now that looks different. When we're
Right.
talking some of our traditions, some of those traditions are going to look different now. And allowing myself to be sad about it, but also allowing myself to say, this is as it should be. Like
Mhm.
they're doing the things we raised them to go and do. And then transitioning to they're making their own decisions. I am now here as a guide.
Yeah.
I mean, if they want my perspective or to talk out things, but I am not the one. When they're little, you kinda control everything.
Right.
This you gonna go, this the time you going to sleep,
This
this
your
is what you
lunch,
gonna
this your
eat.
outfit for the day.
Like, I got all of this, and you go from being solely responsible to their world starts expanding.
Yeah.
Then you kinda be you might not be the first person they wanna tell something, you might be the 3rd person. Then they go off, and now you're was 3rd, maybe now you 5th.
Yeah.
You might get first place dibs here and there. So it really becomes I ask myself, am I creating space they want to come home to? And so that kind of helps me to be mindful that I'm not being controlling, that I'm not being something more than what I should be at this season of life, and that our relationships are also changing
Right.
there as they are in their adulthood and things, and to always be mindful of that. Like I do regularly remind myself, this is what my role is. This is
Yeah.
because I'm like, what are you doing? Why would he who my poor husband? I'm like, babe, why would he
Right.
this doesn't even make sense. This is not what they need to be doing. And he's like, okay, I hear you, but
Right.
they are
They're adults. They're learning.
yes, I'm like, I know, but
Yeah.
so just me continuously remembering, like, being mama is never going to change.
Right.
Recognizing they also are, identifying for themselves what they think, what they believe, who they want to become, and that I'm always positioning myself with they know I am accessible. I am always here. I'm
Right.
loving. So that transition, yeah. And I do think when our kids are little, a lot of times we're just tired because little kids, it could just be exhausting.
Exhausting. Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to build community when kids are small because you can do play dates, things like that.
Yeah.
The kids step into that teenage space, your community actually can look a lot different because if your kid doesn't play a sport and your kid's not in the band or in some type of extracurricular activity where you're part of like other parents,
Yeah.
you may not be connected to other parents. And so, how do you find community in that teenage space to be able to talk through what are just some of this is what teens go through, like, the teen angst, or, hey, you might want to check for this, or those kind of things. I do think it's a little bit harder sometimes
Yeah, yeah,
because of that space in there. And then any grieving you feel that, oh, I thought me and my kid would be here. I thought me and my kid would be doing this, especially if there's aspects in which your child may be making decisions, or that their abilities look different,
yeah,
right? Some different kind of pieces. It's okay to, again, grieve what you thought something was and still see that there's something good. So those are just some of for me, and being intentional about date nights with my husband, and being intentional about the things where we're cultivating our relationship, cultivating us, and then also asking each other, what do you need today?
right.
How can I show up for you today? And what could I, what this is what I need. And then we're talking about what each other needs, but also what are we looking forward to? What are the things you want to accomplish in this new season for your life, or for him and his purpose? And then also what are the things that matter to me? What do I want to say yes to? And what do I want to say no to?
No, too. Yeah,
I think that I don't have to explain any of this. If I'm like, oh, you know what, I just don't want to do that.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I just don't. Younger me would have tried to, like, well, why don't I need to? Maybe I need to explain. And I'm like, well, I don't want to need to, but I don't know. Now I'm like,
We're not
no.
doing it.
And there's nothing else. And the freedom of that, I think, has just been really good for me
Mhm.
and my overall part. And then I will say the transition kind of going into perimenopause and
Yeah,
recognizing body is going through things that I'm like, I don't agree with these changes. What are
yeah,
you doing? Why are you doing this?
yeah.
And so recognizing some things hormonal is just happening with your body, and then how to be able to talk about that. So we had a family meeting about it. I was
Mm,
like, hey, look, this is what I'm going through. And this is what this means for me. This
mhm.
is what y'all can joke about. This is what y'all can't joke about.
Yeah,
I'm a little too, my feelings
yeah,
too raw right now, so I'm not gonna find this funny.
yeah,
And so being able, but also to normalize what women go through and things for my sons, and that these are just normal conversations, like
yeah,
we're talking about. And so but I had to acknowledge, I was like, something feels off. I just
yeah.
not quite feeling myself, and advocating for myself when I went to the doctor. And my original doctor was like, oh, he didn't listen. So I was like, you know what? I don't need a doctor who ain't listening to me. Once I switched doctors, she is phenomenal and she really listened. And so even those pieces too is recognizing, are you feeling heard in the spaces where you need to? You need to be
Right.
heard by your doctors. You need to be heard by these things, so that way you can get the best care and you don't have to take poor care.
Yeah.
So those were some of the things that I did for myself in these transition spaces
Mhm.
of just recognizing, "Hey, I have a need. Something feels different. I don't
Yeah.
know what that is. I don't know if this is just something in my head." Asking those around me, I was like, "Babe, have you noticed anything different?" It's
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, you do seem like you're a little bit more irritable," or I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay." So that way I knew, all right, this is what I'm doing, and talking to the doctor. So also recognize that if you see you're not feeling yourself, whatever that means for you, go talk to somebody. Don't like, oh, I'll give it a couple days. Maybe I just need to sleep it off. If you are recognizing anything about your mental state, your body, where you're feeling numb, you're feeling disconnected, and maybe that you're not having enjoyment because you're like, well, I don't know about that. But if you're feeling blah,
Yeah.
that be some signs like, let me just go talk to a doctor, at a minimum, figure out if it's just something hormonal happening.
Right.
Right? It could be that some vitamin is low and you need something,
Right. And you don't even know
you
it.
don't
Like
know.
you don't know
Exactly.
it.
So, yeah. So those are the things I would say.
Thank you for talking on the being intentional portion, because that's is very important for us to be intentional, and even the advocacy, because again, a lot of us advocate for others and maybe
Mhm.
we forget to advocate for ourselves. And I can attest to advocating in that doctor's room. Like, if that person's not listening to you, on to the next. Find someone who will, because we understand our bodies. We're in tune, right? Enough to know, like, if there's something that feels off, we have a lot of changes that's going on, we need to get that checked out. And if you are saying something to your doctor and they're like, oh, that's fine, it's completely normal, don't worry about it, but you do feel like you need to be worried or want to get it checked out, go on to someone else. My next question, because it's more around your retirement and the shift,
Yeah.
because you have 4 boys? Is
Yes.
okay. You have that. You have your retirement, which is that whole shift in itself. What advice would you share with those spouses that are preparing for that transition, just the retirement piece?
Yeah, get involved. If
Okay.
you are able to attend all of the meetings with your spouse, go to the meetings.
Okay.
Make sure you're going in, you understand, to know what the pieces are, and to ask a lot of questions. If you don't understand something, be in those meetings with your spouse, ask the questions to make sure you understand,
Mhm.
and then ensure that you and your husband are having clear communication with each other about what do you want life to look like, and realistic conversations about, your finances, because that financial impact decides, what life was going to look like after the fact, right? Like, will your spouse need to go get a job, or does he just want to go get a job?
Yeah.
But you're thinking, no, I want you to stay home and be home all the time. Like, you also want to discuss what are the things that you are expecting life to look like, what expectations you have of each other. Are you aligned together? So as soon as you know that you are working toward retirement, don't wait until you actually are in that year-long window. You
Yeah.
actually wanna go back further, because you need to start preparing financially way before that year. You wanna start having the conversation, like, once you decide, "Hey, Imma do 20 years," then what are y'all talking about at year 15? You're doing a year 16, so you want to really kinda think through what is the anticipated retirement date, and then what are the things we're doing to prepare for that, so that way if you don't wanna work, can we rely solely on the part there's no guarantee you're going to be 100% disabled and
Right.
permanent in total. So if we're not doing that piece, what does that mean? Do you want to go back to school? Do I want to go to school? And so really start like the conversations of what are the things you're thinking about, you're dreaming about, so you can start aligning on those pieces. And that helps you to start thinking about what can you already be getting and benefiting from while you're active duty,
Mm.
because there are a lot more resources for spouses and things to do when you're already on the base or when you're in active duty, and scholarships and some other things. Things shift when you go from that active duty military spouse to the veteran spouse. The resources look different. Really make sure, even though like we've never lived on base, make sure you're still using all of those resources that are still available to you. And there's so many communities and resources now to be able to support military spouses, veteran
Mhm.
spouses. So that's my recommendation. One, go back. You need to be talking way before you actually get to retirement. If you are now, whoever's listening, they're like, we're actually getting ready to retire in a
Yeah,
year. eh,
we're year 16, so I'm like, I'm tuned in. What are we talking?
Yes, like all the things do
What
start.
meetings we talking about?
Yes, all of the different pieces, maximize what's available to you, because there is a lot available for us as spouses. And given that I've been doing this, I mean, my husband and I have been together 21 years. So what resources look like then? Way more now, just
Mhm.
in Google search, right? To be able to do, but the basis, having all the different resources there, go and access those. If you're within that year, again, make sure you're going to those transition meetings that they have as you're getting ready to separate, the
Yeah,
separation
she's talking
meetings.
about the transition assistance program. They typically
Mhm.
have TAPS week. Go to every single day. Okay. They have the veteran day, the VA day where they talk about all of that. They have a financial day. And then they have the days where they talk
Mhm.
about your employment and your resume writing and interview prep. So definitely go to that entire week.
Yes, and have the discussion, and then identify also what support your spouse may need. If your spouse already has been identified as having PTSD, or if there's any type of physical aspect that could impact your home, like thinking about what support may be needed, not just for your spouse, but what may be needed for you, for
Mhm.
your children. And then if you do have children that have some special needs that need different resources and things, okay, what is that going to look like? Especially if you're going to decide to move when you retire. And so a lot of very big decisions are being made, and you want to make sure you're giving yourself the time to think through these decisions, instead of getting to the end you're like, well, now we got to make
We have
all
to,
these decisions, we
yeah.
have to do all these things there, and that creates stressors. So the more you can address ahead of time, that removes a lot of the stressors that you're going to experience later on, so you can really just enjoy it.
Yeah.
um, Going through the retirement time with my husband and the ceremony and just that time, that was such a wonderful celebration.
Hmm.
And we were able to be completely present and enjoy it and all that, because we had already had all
Everything.
all of this on the, on the other side. But the communication never stops. And it's really continuing to have those discussions, continuing to talk. And if you recognize you're struggling with talking, maybe go to a couples therapist. Go get the support to help you identify, hey, we're struggling with communication right now. What
Right.
can we do? Go get some support for that in there, and recognizing too when your spouse may need mental health support. And what are your resources to ensure you're able to know, who do I reach out to in retirement when I may see certain things? So there's like, you want to think through all of the different pieces and to talk with one another about what that might look like. What, not that it will happen, but what could it, if it does, what's the plan? What are the resources? So you have insurance just in case. You hope you never need it, but you got it, right?
Right.
So you need to do the same thing. Is what resources do we have, things already put together? And if you've been a military spouse, we all got binders. Okay, we got binders.
Finders for
Get
days.
binders for days. Get your retirement binder together.
Yeah.
And start documenting some of these conversations, decisions that you need to make when you're at year 15, 16, so that way you're able to kind of start thinking about, we need to see a financial planner now. Do we need to start thinking about, our kids might want to go to college? Do we have a plan for them for going to college? Are we financially able to do that? Like all of those different pieces that get into the minutia of things.
Yeah.
And recognize some of those conversations are going to be hard. Some of the things might be stressful, especially depending on what your history is. Like if money freaks you out and you're like, oh, we got to have all these money conversations. You already know it freaks you out. So you already know you're going to those conversations are going to be harder.
Yeah.
You're talking about, oh, let's go on this vacation, right?
Right.
You ain't got the money for
Right.
retirement to pay your mortgage, then you're not going to be having conversations about doing vacation, right? Because how we paying mortgage?
Realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of knowing yourself, knowing the things that matter for yourself, the stressors, the things you might worry about that may not be the same things your spouse is considering or thinking about. So you want to make sure you're having that conversation to be able to say, hey, I'm concerned about this. Do we have a plan for this?
Yeah.
What are you thinking about regarding XYZ? So talk, and more talking. And if set weekly time aside, this is our time to review these things. Then that way, mentally prepared that we're going to have these conversations every Saturday at 10 o'clock.
Mm. I have
You
a
know,
question for you, and it's a
yeah,
quick follow-up because it's you got my wheels
yeah.
spinning. When your spouse is close to retirement or is about to retire and you have your ceremony and everything, where do
Mhm.
they send your household goods? Do they send it to that last place that you have on your address file? And I'm asking this because some people retire overseas, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, where does all my stuff go? Like, how does that
Yeah,
work?
that's a great question. I do not have the answer to that
Okay.
question. I don't know about the overseas
Yeah.
component. Of course, within the US, once you identify that process, I do know, but we chose to stay in our last duty state. So we didn't
Okay.
need to have
You have to
anything
move anything.
shipped.
Okay.
Yeah, we made that choice, but it's a whole process. So you're setting all that stuff up then, but I have no idea about the overseas part.
Okay, I'll look into it, but it
Yeah.
just made me
Hmm.
think. It was like, it depends on
Yeah.
where we go next. Like, how is that going to work with
Yeah.
all of our household goods? So that's something that I'll look into in the
Yeah.
notes if I find the everyone. I did find out the answer after the recording. So after we wrapped up this episode, I did some digging to fully answer this question on where does all of our household goods go if we are in the process of PCSing from overseas to stateside, right? What happens to our HHGs? So I did find some information, and so I want to be able to share this with you to give us some clarity. So when you PCS overseas, your household goods are usually placed in a non-temporary storage. So it could be a storage unit where it's placed, and it's going to be based off your nearest or original pickup location in the States. Because many overseas duty stations have strict weight limits, that is something you want to keep in mind when you're packing up your household goods. So your full household goods typically do stay in storage for the duration of the time that you're overseas. If you have like additional washer, dryers, and things you're not going to bring along, you'll send a smaller unaccompanied baggage shipment ahead with all of your essentials that you'll have what you need while you wait. Now, when it's time to move back stateside and you have a new address, that's when you'll coordinate the delivery of your household goods with the Transportation Management Office, also known as TMO,
or your personal property office, which is PPO. So your significant other will know those terminologies, and those are the people they need to have a conversation with. There are important time limits that you want to be aware of. One is that if you're separating, you'll generally have up to 180 days from your separation date to have your household goods delivered to you at the government's expense. If you're retiring, you have up to 1 year from your retirement date. So if you miss these windows, you may be responsible to have to come out of pocket to pay all of this with your household goods. So takeaway is stay in complete communication and close communication with your PPO and the TMO, which I referenced earlier, and reach out as soon as you're returning stateside. So once you have a date locked in, my personal advice would be at least contacting anywhere from 5 to 6 months prior to you leaving. That way you kind of have a house already locked in, an address at least to send all of your household goods to. So make sure that your delivery is smooth. If there are some additional resources, I will also be including them in the show notes, such as PCS Like a Pro, and I'll find any other resources and be sure to plug that in as well. That's it, everyone. Have a great one. Back to the recording.
Answer.
Yes, yeah. And,
Yeah.
knowing what your kids are, because our kids were close to graduating from high school.
Yeah.
So you're making decisions too about, well, what do you want to do for your kids?
Now I'm going to shift a little bit into your brand because I see a lot of those beautiful products in your background. Can you talk to us about what inspired you to create those products that you have? I know you have some that are self-journaling.
Mhm.
And was there a specific turning point in your own story that sparked the idea?
Ever since I was a little girl, I always was getting staplers, papers, click clacking somewhere. Yes, because back then you had to, well, I'm giving my age, but back then you would send out for your stickers. It would take 4 to 6 weeks before we would get our stickers and the little books and all that. So I was that person who would
Mhm.
send out, and, I still get excited over pens and markers and all those kinds of things. So I've always loved books, always loved storytelling, making, writing, reflecting. Being a military kid, books, writing was my way of coping with that lifestyle. I was always familiar no matter where we went. I knew I could find a library. I knew I could find books. I could write. And so my bachelor's degree is in English as a result of that. And I've always also been a creative. Like I do like to create things, make things with my hands. So that kind of space transitioning, here now to Surprise. Well, as a little girl, I used to tell my aunts, my mom, or pretty much anybody who would listen, that I was like, one day people are going to pay to hear me speak and they're going to buy my books. And when you're little, you put your hands, as my grandma said,
On
on your
hips.
imagination. Yep, on my hips. So she said, your imagination. And I'm like, oh, they're going to pay to hear me speak and they're going to pay to buy my books. And so I was a big dreamer even as a little girl.
Mm.
And then what really kind of kickstarted Mamie Alpaca Media was during that time in which I was staying at home, had our third son, C-section, first deployment, and life looked different. I had to figure out kind of how do I make my life look now? And I felt like I couldn't do any more than what I was already doing. And so it really became me using, which our sermon notes is our very first product, is still our top selling product. And the way that that is designed is that I'm taking the message that I listen to on Sunday, and that is my Devo for the week. So I'm not having to go find something else to do for my Devo, figure out what I need. I'm just using what I'm already doing. And so the idea of, I can do less and still live more. And then gratitude journal came out of that time period, which is our do less, live more gratitude journal. You're just identifying one good thing in your day. And so a lot of the products were born out of a necessity for myself, of me figuring out what do I need life to look like. And then I started writing again. Actually, I just remember I put all those things deep inside my heart.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's just not something for me. And I started back up and I was like, okay, clearly this desire to want to write again and create, like that's being stirred up for a reason. And I was like, let me lean into that. So I started writing again and started creating the products. And at that time, it was like, I didn't want other women to be alone.
Right.
That like oftentimes you get into these things, you get into where you are in these new spaces and it can feel so isolating. And I was just like, I want other women to know that they are not alone and that, hey, I'm going to help you be able to build the skills to get to your next space. and to normalize vulnerability, transparency, normalize that life is messy and that it can still be a good life. And so I just wanted to expand the table, always make space for other women, make room where they could come complicated and broken and all the things and still say, hey, I still see the good in you. I see the all the spaces and places you can bloom. You can be messy with me.
Yeah.
And so creating that safe space for women to be able to show up in that way really still kind of guides me in what I do in there, and to think about the woman who's like, I don't journal.
Right.
Okay, you don't have to be a journaler to use my products.
Right.
But are you somebody who says, I'm tired of being burnt out? I'm tired of putting myself last. Well, yeah, okay, then that's what my products are for.
For
My
yeah.
products aren't for journalists. It's for people who are saying, I want to take better care of me. It's
Yeah.
for people who are saying, I need some different resources to help me figure out how do I embrace this life right now. So it really just kind of started there and continued to expand. So we started with the one product. Now we have over 50. And I continue to look for the person who is like feeling unseen,
Yeah.
look for the person who is feeling unheard, and to be able to say, I see you over there. I hear you. Come on over here with me. I'll
Yeah.
come with you. And so that gives me joy when I'm able to interact. So whether I'm talking to the one or I'm talking to 10,000, you're gonna get the same
Yeah.
Mamie. You don't
You
get
gonna get the same Mamie regardless.
you don't get the same Mamie because the care I'm giving for the one is going to be what I'm doing for the masses, because the one matters too. That's the products are all designed to be able to help in that space. And then I use my professional experience being an educator to know how to structure the journal so that people need to chunk information. You need to put
Yeah.
the information into practice. You need to reflect on it. So how do you now build a habit? And so it's really designed to help walk you through doing the inner work so then you can start building the practices, systems, and habits so it can be a part of what you're doing.
Yeah, it sounds like it helps with building just the better habits overall,
Yeah.
especially around that self-care and that
Mhm.
mental wellness, mental reflection. So through that, whether you're helping one or you're helping 50,000, what's one success story or piece of feedback that someone has that who has used your products has that's really touched you? They've been able to tell
Yeah.
you and it's really touched you.
Yes, so I had a woman who disclosed with me a disability that she
Okay.
had, and that was just really struggling with being able to find notepads that worked for what she needed for her lifestyle.
Mm.
And she used our daily productivity notepad, which is designed to it's your three priorities, two possibilities, and then a space for praise. But it's that product is about reframing how we think about our to-do list. So your possibilities, these are the three things I need to get done. If you need have more than three, you got too many prioritizations going on. Possibilities, we want to reframe that thinking. It would be nice if I got this done. And so she started using that product and was able to say, like, this is the first like notepad I could actually use and implement that made sense for what was going on in her life. And so for me to know that someone's able to use a product that helps their quality of life. Really, that's what it's designed for. Like that, those are the things. And that's why I say, do people who journal, plan, other things, do those people love my products? Absolutely, because those are my journalists. Those are my
Yes, yeah.
planning people. Yeah. Like those are people, of course. But I think about the people who are like, I don't like to journal. I don't like to write things down. Okay, but these products are designed to help your quality of life. So then to see that someone's using the products and that their quality of life is improved, that I'm like, yes, like that was so amazing. And the fact that she disclosed and shared her story with me, like that was such a privilege to be able to know that and to know that I created a space where she was comfortable sharing, that. So it was just a
And she
great moment.
felt
Yeah.
seen and understood.
Yes.
And I like
Yeah.
that you touch on the priorities. Cause listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, I do always create a huge to-do list. But
Mm-mm.
the reality is, girl, you're not gonna get all that done in one
Mm-mm.
day. Why are you doing this to yourself?
And
And
for
that
some
happens often.
and we do it because we're taught to be list makers, and then it helps you if you start doing some deeper work, I'm just gonna kind of
Yeah.
it's recognizing, why does this list matter to you? And why does having a bunch of things on the list and as the bunch of things making you feel like you have earned something because you've completed all these things? Or seeing this really long list now, is it creating some anxiety and stress because you're like, I have all these things and now look, I
Yes.
anything with my day. But maybe in your day you were completely present with your babies.
Yeah.
And you know what? That trumps a lot of this other stuff when you recognize my kids have this need. I need to meet this need and show up. And but we'll do all of that, be this amazing mother spotlight, really show up where it matters.
Yeah.
But then we'll see this long list we didn't complete. And now we're putting ourselves in condemnation
Yeah.
because now like I didn't do any of these things. I should have done this. And or we'll stay up late to make sure like, oh, I need to make
Need
up
it.
for no, I don't. I don't need to make up for this list. I did focus on the thing that was the most important that day. And that was, hey, my kids were sick. I need to do this. Or my kids really miss their father and they're showing that they need me to take care of their overall mental well-being. And you know what? The laundry can wait. It's okay if we just gonna have to order a pizza and we're gonna just chill out and we're gonna
Right.
actually do this thing. But I'm making sure my child's overall well-being has been met and is good, and that will trump the list. And so giving yourself that permission in that space to move away from the condemnation. And that took me time because I
Yeah.
really was like, oh, I didn't do anything with my day. I feel like such a failure. I
Yeah.
should have done these things. Now up at night trying to do all this, and then I'm exhausted the next day. So it becomes this never ending cycle. And it's just constant condemnation, shame, uh, over and over. And I was like, I
Right.
need to break this. This is not healthy. This is not who I want to be. This is not how I want to mother. And to start doing the work of, I need to get rid of good. I'm being a good, good wife, good mama, good whatever. I was like, I need to break up with good because good is
Yeah.
getting me in trouble. It was, it's keeping me in bondage because I had an unhealthy view of
Mm.
what was good.
Right.
Breaking up with good to become what is the priority? Did I do the things that I was assigned to do that day? Did I steward well my time, my relationships? So really shifting, but I'm gonna tell you, it took years. Like me tell people time, I'm not talking a week, a month, I'm talking years
Yeah.
for me to do some of that unpacking, to do some of that changing of mindset, then to change behaviors and then different stuff. So if you feel like, well, I've been doing this, but I still making these mistakes, okay.
Yeah.
But are you still getting back up? Are you still doing it?
Right.
Like it's okay to stumble. It's okay to even fall. Just make sure you get up, dust your knees off and the
And
elbow, and like, okay, what did I learn from this? Let me keep going.
yeah, and I'm still going through that. Like you said, it's gonna take years because it's you gotta think it's a habit. And a lot
Mhm.
of us we've been doing it for so long with this priority list and not even realizing sometimes that we're overwhelming ourselves.
Yeah.
We are causing that own anxiety. I had the habit of, and I'm still working through it, I have a list and it's in my head.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, I know I need to do this and this and this and this and this today. And then if I get stuck thinking about it, I overwhelm myself.
Mhm.
This is like jotting it down, breaking it down. You could do this Monday. This can probably get done Friday. And if you don't get to it, that's okay. Put it on to the next week.
Mhm.
So I'm
Yeah.
working through
Yeah.
that side of it. And my last question for
Yeah.
you is more around advice and encouragement for us military spouses and even now veteran spouses as well,
Yeah.
right? Because we're still going through our own
Mhm.
transition periods, which you're sharing. Looking back on your journey, what message of hope would you like to leave with military spouses about caring for their mental health through these transitions?
Yeah, so I would share that one, celebrate that you're still here. You know, that there is an element that, different military spouses go through your own mental health and things. And so if you are someone that has really struggled with self-worth, you're someone that has struggled with depression, like all of these kind of things, the fact that you're continuing, when you're here and that you're continuing to show up and that you're identifying, how do I show up well where I am with the resources that I have. There's always hope. There's and there are resources to support you. And if you don't have a mentor in your life, there were times that I didn't, but I'm gonna read a book. Now we have so much at our fingertips. Go find someone who's has some strategies or things. What can you go learn? What can you go watch until you're in a space where you can build some sort of authentic mentoring relationships? Identify what are the community resources. So is there already a community meetup for military spouses? If it's not for military spouses, are you someone who likes to read books? Is there a book club around you? I love the public library. Always going to encourage, get plugged into your public library. There's so many resources that are right there about what's happening in your community. And so just recognize that military spouses, we are not superheroes. We are human beings. And I say that in a lot of things that I speak. We are not superheroes. We are human beings. We are human beings that need support, that need encouragement, that need advocacy. So if you're feeling like, oh man, I should be able to know, you are not a superhero. You are a person who
Yeah.
has limitations and a capacity. Like, so we are meant to do community. We're meant to rely on one another's and to build the spaces in there. So just to give yourself more grace and
Yeah.
self-compassion about that in there, and recognizing I'm a human being who is a spouse. I'm a human being who is a mother. I'm a human being that is, this, and that all human beings have limitations. All human beings have our own capacity, and that you don't have to do something to be worthy of anything. So knowing that you are already worthy as you are in that space. So that has been some for me, that I don't have to be performative to be able to be identified as someone who is worthy to be loved. I don't have to prove something to show that I deserve to have these things, that I'm already worthy in there. So hopefully as a military spouse, like as they're listening to this, that they find the one nugget, maybe not all the things may be too much. Find the one nugget that you are a human being, needs support, advocacy, resources. So identify, what resource do I need to identify for myself? Where in my community could I get plugged in? How do I advocate for what I need in there? And just take that one step. And then also to have friends, you got to be a friend. So be able to make sure, are you creating yourself? Is your heart open to being able to build new relationships and to expand into new people coming into your circle and in theirs? Because sometimes our heart is closed. And so they were like, oh, I don't have community, because you're not open to community. And I get it. We get hurt. We get disappointed. All those things. But one of my prayers is always like, Lord, keep my heart tender when life around me is hard. And so that helps me to be tender so that I can be open to any new relationship, new friendships, new experiences, new transitions, and not allow what I've gone through to keep me hard.
I really appreciate your insight and your tips that you're sharing with military spouses, because a lot of it sounds like that self reflection,
Mhm.
that advocating for ourselves and building the community if there isn't one that exists. So
Mhm.
I thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time. I really do appreciate it. And
Thank you.
I look forward to continuing to partner with each other down the line
Yes.
and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Join us May 16th and 17th for Empowerment Leads, a military spouse summit. We are going to be focused on being aligned in work, MilLife, a balance. And this space is for you as a military spouse. Looking forward to having you join us. Thank you again for tuning in this week. I look forward to bringing you resources, support, and laughter. Sending my love from the desk of a Navy wife.